The following presentation is a production of Ride the Wave Media.
Welcome to the Best Birth Podcast. On our episode today, we'll be diving into the books and the quotes that will help us improve our parenting and improve ourselves.
I've been collecting quotes since I was a young girl, and I love that some people can say things better than I can. In the book, The Fringe Hours by Jessica Turner, she says, "Time is a gift, and how we choose to use it reflects what we value. Reclaim your fringe hours and fill them with what brings you joy and fulfillment."
In the book, 12 Hours Sleep by 12 Weeks Old, it says, because they are well rested, these babies will be more alert and more willing to listen during their awake times, which in turn means they will be more active learners. Can you imagine your baby sleeping for 12 hours at 12 weeks old? This is a book we all need.
In A Dude Dad's Guide to Baby Size, Taylor Kalmus, who lives in Fort Collins, says, "By week 34, your little lopper is now the size of a 16-inch largemouth bass that weighs 4 to 5 pounds.
In the book, Resilient, How to Grow an Unshakable Core of Calm, Strength, and Happiness, Rick Hansen, PhD, says, allowing yourself to be vulnerable doesn't mean you are weak. It means you are strong enough to accept help, listen to your body, and trust the process.
In the book, Good Moms Have Scary Thoughts, Karen Kleiman says, "Sometimes the thoughts are too scary to say out loud, but the truth is, having scary thoughts doesn't make you a bad mom. It makes you human. Recognizing them is the first step towards healing."
I love the book 90 Seconds to the Life You'll Love by Joan Rosenberg, all about allowing our emotions to pass through us instead of always trying to stifle them. She says, by staying present with your emotional discomfort, you build resilience and the confidence to face future challenges.
We've all heard of The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. He also wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages of Children. And he says, discover your child's primary language, then speak it, and you will be well on your way to a stronger relationship with your flourishing child.
Self-Compassion by Kristin Neff. Self-compassion is a way of emotionally recharging our batteries. Rather than becoming drained by life's difficulties, self-compassion allows us to thrive and grow.
In the book, I Am Malala, one about education, it is said, "It is my belief that God sends the solution first and the problem later."
The Music Advantage by Anita Collins, PhD, says music has the potential to positively benefit almost all aspects of a child's development, whether it's through formal education or mindful appreciation. Both Jen and I play the violin, and we're making music a priority for our children.
In the popular book Fair Play, Eve Rodsky says, "Mental load is the invisible work that goes into managing a household and a family. It's the thinking, planning, and organizing that often goes unnoticed and unacknowledged." As moms, we have such little bandwidth, and if we can figure out a way to distribute those responsibilities, it will be a lot lighter of a load.
Parenting with Love and Logic. It's not our job to protect children from all of life's challenges, but to help them learn how to navigate those challenges with confidence. The best way to inspire a child to do better in the future is to give him an opportunity to do better in the present. A punishment makes him feel bad about himself. Making amends helps him feel good about himself and helps him to see himself as a person who can do good.
If a child can't write, if a child can't read, if a child can't swim, we teach them. Similarly, if they don't know how to behave, we teach them. In the book 1, 2, 3 Magic by Thomas Phelan, he says, "The two biggest discipline mistakes made by adults are too much talking and too much emotion. Keep calm and be consistent." And that is so true. It begins with us. Our resilience, our emotional regulation will then transfer.
The Good News About Bad Behavior by Catherine Reynolds Lewis says household jobs can build a child's capability, helping them practice independence and autonomy, foster connection with the family, and help them become capable adults. Instead of simply leaving a punishment in the moment, parents should come up with agreements with their kids and clearly define the consequences for violating them. This is such an important element for children to understand the rules, to understand the consequences, and they will then have a place with your home and your family's rules, and then the discipline or a punishment if necessary.
In the book, Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids by Laura Markham, she says, children raised in a home in which there are limits on behavior but not on feelings grow up understanding that all emotions are acceptable, a part of being human.
I remember when my mom would say, it's okay to be sad. And not even when I was a little girl, but when I was grown, just reminding me all range of emotions are acceptable and we should learn how our body processes and how we can cope. Parenting with Love and Logic by Charles Fay and Foster Cline says children need to experience failure in order to learn resilience and problem-solving skills.
This reminds me also of the gift of failure and just how those experiences are the metamorphosis for our children to grow. In the book, The Whole Brain Child, Daniel Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson say, avoid solving and resist rescuing, even when they make minor mistakes or not so great choices.
In the book Raising Mentally Strong Kids by Amy Moran, she says mentally strong kids are resilient and they have the courage and confidence to reach their full potential.
In the book Good Inside, Dr. Becky Kennedy says, shame doesn't change people, it only pushes them further into a spiral of darkness. Connection is light, binding us together. When we pause to give grace in the tough moments, we build our connection with our kids.
Her platform, podcast, and book have been revolutionary in reminding parents that we are good inside and that our children are good inside. In The Explosive Child by Ross Greene, labeling a child as manipulative or defiant only perpetuates the problem.
None of us like to be labeled. Children are the same. In the book Raising Boys, Stephen Biddulph says, every boy needs a mentor. Boys need to see adult men in their lives who are kind, loving, and respectful. Sarah and I both have 3 boys. We are raising those boys.
The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. Unprotected from the powers of technology companies, overprotected from normal childhood adventures, it is no surprise that so many Gen Zers are sad, lonely, fearful, racked with the sense they will never measure up to the starry standards of others. This book and the data within is really life-changing, how a phone-based childhood versus a play-based childhood is affecting that generation. It also affects us and how we're using our devices.
Spend twice the time with your children and half the money. In the book Raising Good Humans, Hunter Clarke-Field says, children are not distractions from more important work. They are the most important work.
In The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, fear is just an illusion. It's time to step into the unknown and trust in our abilities.
In the book The Child Whisperer, Carol Tuttle teaches that there are 4 types of children she categorizes: fun-loving, sensitive, determined, and more serious. When you understand your child's energy type, you can tailor your parenting to meet their needs and strengths, creating a harmonious and supportive environment.
I have 1 fun-loving child and 1 sensitive. My youngest, I'm still trying to decide what his personality type will be, but I parent them very differently.
In the book Womb, Leah Hazard says, the womb is the most miraculous organ in the body, with the power to bring life or cause death, to yield joy or pain, yet most of us know almost nothing about it.
Simplicity Parenting by Kim John Payne and Lisa M. Ross says, as you simplify your life, you will find that the everyday activities of family life present opportunities for greater connection, meaning, and joy.
One of my favorites is Hunt, Gather, Parent by Micheline Duclef. This mirrored a lot of the education I learned in college as an early childhood educator. She says, children need time and space to play and explore their interests. It is through these experiences that they learn and grow and develop essential life skills. And I agree, play is their work.
In the book Only Love Today by Rachel Macy Stafford, she says, only love today is clarity when you're conflicted. Only love today is unity when you're divided. Only love today is faith when you're uncertain. Only love today is a reset button directing you back to what matters most. I love this statement, to do all things with love. And that was definitely the mantra of my third birth, was just to love every moment of labor and delivery.
Another book by Rachel Macy Stafford is Hands-Free Mama. She says, being responsible for someone else's childhood is a big deal. We not only create our own memories, but we create our child's memories.
In Simplicity Parenting by Kim John Payne and Lisa M. Ross, they say when you simplify a child's world, you prepare the way for positive change and growth. You make space for connection, creativity, and relaxation. My goal this summer with our children is to get into a flow state as often as we can, to go to a park and just be, to bring a sack lunch to the splash pad so we're allowed to just take all the time that we need to get into that state where we can have that connection and relaxation.
Again, in Hands-Free Mama by Rachel Macy Stafford, she says, the most meaningful life experiences don't happen in the when, they happen in the now. Such a great reminder to be present.
We love all books by Brene Brown. In I Thought It Was Just Me, But It Isn't, she says, there is a constant barrage of social expectations that teach us that being imperfect is synonymous with being inadequate. Everywhere we turn, there are messages that tell us who, what, and how we're supposed to be. So we learn to hide our struggles and protect ourselves from shame, judgment, criticism, and blame by seeking safety in pretending and perfection.
In Dare to Lead, she says, you can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot choose both. And sometimes we just have to go through both.
In The Gifts of Imperfection, Brene Brown says, I define connection as the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship.
Another by Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfect Parenting, Raising Children with Courage, Compassion, and Connection. She says, your child's worth is not determined by their achievements or milestones.
Parenting the Strong-Willed Child by Rex Forehand. Positive reinforcement is a powerful tool for shaping behavior. When you catch your child doing something right and acknowledge it, you reinforce that behavior and encourage its repetition. I've always believed that a child will become what you tell him or her that they are.
So true. And behavior that gets noticed gets repeated. The Book of Joy by Dalai Lama says, a compassionate concern for others' well-being is the source of happiness. A self-centered attitude is the source of the problem. We have to take care of ourselves without selfishly taking care of others. If we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot survive. We need to do that. We should have wise selfishness rather than foolish selflessness.
In Christ-like Parenting by Glenn Latham, he says, discover the secret that will help your child to disregard peer pressure and make smart choices for life. I absolutely love that idea that teaching a child to trust in themselves and not always having to be looking to their peers can really give them direction in their life.
In the book, The Coddling of the American Mind, Jonathan Haidt says, we must learn to cultivate the virtues of humility, open-mindedness, and intellectual courage in order to seek truth, engage in constructive dialogue, and work toward a more just and inclusive society.
Joe Dispenza gives us all things self-help, and in Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, he says, when our behaviors match our intentions, when our actions are equal to our thoughts, when our minds and our bodies are working together, when our words and our deeds are aligned, there is an immense power behind any individual.
You just read that and breathe in again. Oh, so good. In You Are Not a Shitty Parent, Carla Naumburg says, the fact is, great parenting starts with true self-compassion, the kind that means you don't judge yourself. Harnessing this self-compassion is the key to giving yourself a break and embracing your best qualities as a parent.
In the book, Strong Mothers, Strong Sons, Meg Meeker says, the crucial role mothers play in expressing love to their sons in healthy ways, so that they learn to respect and appreciate women will affect how they grow up.
We are raising these little boys, and I heard a quote that said, support wildlife, raise boys, but they really do have those genuine hearts as well, and there are joys in parenting either gender. In the book, Create Anyway, The Joy of Pursuing Creativity in the Margins of Motherhood, Ashley Gadd says, your creative work matters, even if it's done in the margins of motherhood. Motherhood can be the catalyst that refines and hones your creative passions. This goes right along with playing to our strengths and finding the ways that we like to be creative and bringing that to our motherhood. This is one of my passions. I have a book coming out in August called Let Yourself Bloom.
Self-Compassion for Parents by Susan M. Pollack says, remember that self-compassion doesn't eradicate pain or negative experiences. It just embraces them with kindness and gives them space to transform on their own.
Feelings buried alive never die, and if we can really, truly cultivate and work through those emotions, we'll be much healthier. In the book Untangled, Guiding Teenage Girls Through the 7 Transitions into Adulthood, Lisa D'Amour walks us through these transitions, and she says, when a teenage girl's behavior seems completely mysterious, it's a sign that she's working through one or more of the 7 transitions that make up the arc of adolescence. The 7 transitions are 1. Parting with childhood, 2. Joining a new tribe, 3. Harnessing emotions, 4. Contending with adult authority, 5. Planning for the future, 6. Entering the romantic world, 7. Caring for herself.
We're focusing on all of these teenage book resources, but we have not embraced that part of parenthood quite yet.
Definitely, and while that's geared towards teenage girls, it's definitely applicable for boys.
The book How to Hug a Porcupine, Julie Ross teaches us, our preteens need for us to remain emotionally connected and stable because they're so unstable during this period. They need to know that we may not love their behavior, but that despite the fact that they're uncomfortable during their metamorphosis, we aren't going anywhere, and we will always continue to love them.
I've heard that when your child tells you something, it's big for them, no matter their age. Same as when they're a teenager. It's always been the big things.
And getting down on their level, looking them in the eye, and really listening to the excitement they have over what they're sharing.
So true. It may not seem important to us, but it's very important to them at this time. In Preteen Wise, Parenting Your Child from 8 to 12 Years, Gary Ezzo and Robert Buckman say, finding relational equilibrium with your maturing child is one of the more difficult tasks of parenthood. But by the end of this growth period, a healthy restructuring of relationships needs to have occurred for both you and your child. It's a transition for both.
In The Teenage Brain by Frances Jensen, there are other misconceptions and myths about the teenage brain and teenage behavior that are now so ingrained they are accepted societal beliefs. Teens are impulsive and emotional because of surging hormones. Teens are rebellious and oppositional because they want to be difficult and different. This developmental imbalance results in teenagers being more susceptible to making risky decisions, especially under peer pressure, and struggling with self-control in emotionally charged situations. Understanding these neurobiological changes provides a clearer picture of teenage behavior beyond the oversimplified explanation of surging hormones.
Growing up, I saw a quote that said, raising teenagers is like nailing Jell-O to a tree, but it doesn't have to be that way. We can figure this out. It's just another transitional period.
In The Success of Failure by Mike Bensi, anyone can give up. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. But to hold it together when everyone else would understand if you fell apart, that's true strength.
Motherhood is calling upon that true strength, but we can do it. We're equal to the task. In the book, Easy to Love, Difficult to Discipline, Becky A. Bailey says, every conflict presents you with a choice. You can choose to view conflict as an opportunity to teach or as an opportunity to blame and punish.
In the book, The New Menopause, she says, menopause is inevitable, but suffering through it is not.
These are our quotes. If you like them, you can implement them into your parenting. You can find the resource in the show notes. Begin to cultivate your self-development as you nurture your children.
Thank you as always for listening to the Best Birth Podcast.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. We hope you've been elevated and inspired by this week's expert.
Subscribe today so you never miss an episode. And please share our podcast or post on your social media so that other moms and dads-to-be can also have the best birth.
Please note that the information provided is based on the expert's insights and personal experience. It is not intended as medical guidance. Please seek the advice of your medical provider as it applies to your specific condition.